When I first started to play The Witcher 3, I knew that I was playing something special. I knew that I was playing something special because of how Geralt moved, how he was able to strike and fight within the pocket. It was like watching Tom Brady throw from a clean pocket, or not even throw from a clean pocket, but being able to avoid the rush and move in the pocket. It's like watching Floyd Mayweather dance and move in the boxing ring, in the circle, in that sweet science, being able to avoid people, being in that turtle shell defense, watching someone who's great at their craft be pressured, be under attack, but still moving gracefully. That's what I was watching, that's what I saw, and that's what I thought of when I first started to play The Witcher 3, on my first playthrough, of course. I was stunned that you could fight enemies that were multiple levels higher than you, like 2 to 3, sometimes 4 to 5 levels higher than you. On like the second hardest or the hardest difficulty I played my most recent playthrough on Death March, but I was surprised that you could just absolutely decimate people if you were good enough at the video game. If you were good enough, and you didn't see that. You don't see that in a lot of games. You don't see that in turn-based RPGs. Usually you have to be a certain level. Usually you have to have characters be a certain level and have to have gear and stuff like that. All of that helps in The Witcher 3. But if you're moving cleanly, if you're fighting cleanly, if you're dodging, if you're dancing, if you're that Floyd Mayweather within the pocket, or the Tom Brady, if you're just avoiding things, you can get a whole lot of use out of Geralt. But then you mix in the signs into the sword fighting, and you take the gameplay to a whole nother level. You mix in all of the combat trees, all of the skill trees that you get in the game, and then you mix in the DLC skill trees as well, and you turn Geralt into this absolute just monster of a character. I was watching Video Game Donkey's video on Super Mario 64, and he talked about how Mario could move in the world, and how he was graceful, and how he could do all of these different movements, and how he sees Mario in Super Mario 64 is how I see Geralt of Rivia moving in the pocket in the combat of The Witcher 3. The story in The Witcher 3 is like a great novel. When we think of great stories in gaming, we think of Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us. Two great stories within the video gaming industry. But those stories are already set in stone, they're done, they're not interchangeable, you can't make any key decisions except somewhat at the end of The Last of Us. But in The Witcher, the story is a lot more fluid, it's a lot more personal to the player, because you get to influence the outcome of the plot. By plotting to kill Radovid, you take out a tyrant who wants to kill, maim, and torture all non-humans within his kingdom, within his realm. Helping Cerys ascend to the throne changes the entire way that the Vikings in Skellige operate forever. Helping Von Everec with his issues, saving him pretty much from the devil, gives a man who deserves a second chance a second chance. Or you can sell a soul to the devil.
Your soul belongs to me.
Well, either way, it's up to you as the player. And finally, in Blood and Wine, there's a whole bunch of different decisions. Everybody has their own take on what you want to do in Blood and Wine, whether you want to save Anna Henrietta and Sienna, or do you want to kill Detlef, or a combination of the two. But in all of facets of the story, you have the ability to influence the plot by influencing the characters, but also the characters themselves are interesting characters. Some of the names that I just rattled off Dettlaff, he's a vampire that's being manipulated by his true love, Sienna. Anna Henrietta, she's a naive monarch who chooses to see what she wants to see because she is so powerful, because she is so great, because everybody loves her. They've kind of, started to kiss her ass way too much, and she can't see what's right in front of her is evil and manipulative. And that Dettlaff has some redeeming qualities to him. Zoltan, Dandelion, Priscilla, Philippa, Yennefer, Triss, and finally Ciri. Ciri is my favorite character within The Witcher 3, and I think the reason for that is because you actually get to play as her. You get to experience some of the events of the game, and it gives you this closer connection to her. And you finally see this beautiful moment with Ciri and Geralt reconnecting after God knows how long they've been separated, and it's just this beautiful moment because you see both of them really, really suffering, trying to find, Geralt tries to find her, and he really, really suffers for it. In fact, depending on how you play the game with the DLC, you can actually do the entirety of the Heart and Stone gameplay before you even find Ciri, and you can make a deal literally with the devil to try and save Ciri. That's a part of the game, but she is one of my favorite characters in all of gaming. She is one of the most interesting characters in all of gaming. And there are a lot of these moments with Geralt and Ciri where if you don't do the correct thing, if you don't help her in the correct way, if you don't give her the ability to stand on her own 2 feet, and if you betray her, if you forsake her, like, you'll lose her as Geralt. And Geralt, that's his daughter. They even look alike, even though they're not related, by blood, of course. When Geralt loses her in the worst ending you can possibly get, you see how frustrated he is, how emotional he is, and Geralt doesn't get emotional at all. But on the flip side, the best parts of the game are when you share these precious moments with Ciri, where you bond with her, where you reconnect with the character after years of separation, and after her running, after you trying to find her. It's some of the best moments I've ever experienced in gaming, just the moments with Geralt and Ciri having fun together and, talking and, kind of figuring out what's been going on within the past couple of years. It's some of the best conversations and some of the best scenes I've ever seen in all of gaming. The final thing that I'll talk about today is the world, the map of The Witcher 3, the different regions that you can explore, with Velen being the first region that we'll get into. Velen easily being the worst region. The worst region not in design, not in the actual execution of the team, but it's the worst region because it's the worst region. Any type of lawlessness, anything goes in this region. Anything. You see it in the people. You see it how there is no hope for them. How there's war orphans just in this region constantly. Like, you see all of these people just suffering, and you see the worst of the worst. You see the people who have power, who have unchecked power, just roaming free in this region and taking advantage of the population, and it sucks. It sucks to be here. It sucks to be in this region. It sucks. But it's a good type of suck. It's like you understand why everything the way it is, and you feel bad for them. You feel bad for the people that live in this region. You feel bad for everyone that has to live here, because it sucks. But then you go to Novigrad, and it's a completely different theme. In Novigrad, there's prosperity all around. There's law here, but there's also even more extreme barbarity than there was in Velen. You literally, the first thing you get in Novigrad when you ride in with Roach into the city, past the gates into like the town square, is you see a burning of witches on a stake, and you see them just dying, and you understand now, like, oh, okay, there's this cult called the Eternal Fire, and they're seeking out any and all non-humans. They seek out, well, specifically they seek out wizards and mages and stuff like that, and they're burning them at the stake. But then when the wizards go, they then start to just kill all the non-humans, because that's Radovid's orders. They couldn't get the mages, now they gotta get all the non-humans. Now it just becomes extremely dangerous if you're anyone who's a little bit different, including a witcher. And in a city where there's supposed to be this civility, where it's supposed to be the crown jewel, it's supposed to be the city that all of these countries are vying for because of the income because of the bank that's in it, and it can fund their war efforts. This city, Novigrad, it's supposed to be the pinnacle of civility, and there's this constant reminder that there's this barbaric nature in it. I mean, the city is even run by criminals. You don't interact with really the politicians. The politicians, they don't have power. Even the Eternal Fire, their power is kind of like a farce, because it's the criminals that run Novigrad. But unlike Novigrad, the real people that run Skellige, they're the clans. They run Skellige with an iron fist. And you know what? They don't take too kindly to outsiders. They don't take too kindly to the black ones. they don't take too kindly to anyone who's not of Skellige or Skellige descent, whatever you want to call it. And they're all about pillaging and plundering and showing how strong they are as a people. And depending on who you pick, and going back to what I was talking about in the story, depending on who you pick depends on how the islands will become, whether they will have that same edge that they used to have. Depends on what you do. And then finally we get to Tucson. We get to my favorite region, because it's paradise, man. Look at it. It is an actual paradise. But it's completely different than all of these other regions because it's been untouched by war. Every single region has been touched by war in some way or another. Tucson is the only, technically it's the city of Beauclair where you spend a lot of your time in Tucson, but in Beauclair it's not been touched by war. So you have all of these people talking in these really, really weird accents, these French accents, and they talk with these really, really weird like phrases and words and stuff like that. But it's a paradise. It's kind of like a farce. It's a relaxation. It's a separation of what it's a separation from Velen. Velen sucks because everybody is suffering, but in Tucson, everybody is prospering. And this constant distinction between Novigrad and Velen and Skellige and Tucson and Beauclair and all these places, it adds into the gameplay and it adds into the experience, and it creates easily one of the best, if not the best. For me, it's the best experience I've ever had in all of gaming.
Seemed like a land straight out of a fairy tale back then. Its sole problem, cellars too small to accommodate all that wine.
Appearances, Geralt. Appearances, like Mamoons and Dopplers, deceive.
The Witcher 3 is one of the best games of all time, and CD Projekt Red is looking to extend their legacy further with their newest game being released next year, Cyberpunk 2077. This has been 24. Remember to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe for more. I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a weird one for me. I tried to look at how and why I liked this game, and I gave some of the reasons why I did, but really I could just talk about this game for an hour or two. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time.